Hello everyone, welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica, I'm the director of the Planetarium, and with me tonight is one of our students who I will let say hi and introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Braden. I'm a music education student here at UMD.
So tonight is our monthly constellation show where we will take a look at what stars and constellations we can see and tell you some of the stories behind them. Now let me get everything all switched over here. Now, if you are new to these shows, I'm completely forgetting. That's the button I need to press. There we go. If you're new to these shows, this program that we use for our star shows, or at least our virtual star shows, is a really cool one. It's called Stellarium. It's actually completely free. There's a link in the video description if you want to check it out for yourself. But it's basically a planetarium on your computer. You can put in your date, time, and location, and it shows you what the sky looks like. So we have it currently set up for Duluth, since that's where we're located, and it is for our current time here, right at 7:01. And as you can see, we've got the sun setting over in the west. We're starting to get some earlier and earlier sunsets as we head into fall and winter. But we are going to just fast forward time a little bit just to really get us past that sunset. Go a little bit faster. There we go. And we'll stop it there. So this is going to be at about 8:22. That's 20, right? Is 8? Yeah, I forget sometimes. Yeah, so we're gonna stop here at about 8:30 and take a look at our night sky. Now I did leave some things on, like the names of bright stars, so that you can see those, and as we talk about specific constellations, those will turn on as well. But we're going to get started looking over in the north with our familiar set of 7 stars. That's looking pretty low in the northwest horizon right now, and this is our Big Dipper. Now, the Big Dipper is not a constellation, it's an asterism. That means it is a smaller grouping of stars within a larger constellation, and that larger constellation is Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. So you can see that the handle of the Dipper is actually the tail of the bear. The kind of cup of the Dipper is part of the body, and then we have to add in some other stars for the head, front legs, and back legs. And so that is our Big Bear. Now from here, we can then find the Little Dipper and the Little Bear. And the best way to do that is to actually use the Big Dipper to help you. So if we go to these front 2 stars in the cup of the Dipper, these are our pointer stars. They will point you, if you connect them in a line, to this bright star. And this star is Polaris, also known as the North Star. And so that is your trick to finding the North Star. You find the Big Dipper, you take those pointer stars, and you point to Polaris, the North Star. Now what's special about this star is it's always right there in the same place in your sky. And this was a really important thing for navigators because it let them kind of tell their directions at night without the sun being up. They knew if they could find the North Star, then they knew where north was, and once you know that, you know your other directions as well. Now the North Star is the end of the handle of the Little Dipper, which we have right here. And the Little Dipper is also our Little Bear. We don't really have any other stars to add on here. So we still have the handle of the Little Dipper is the tail of the Little Bear, but then the cup is the entire body. So you can kind of think of like the back, and then the legs, and then the head would be here. And we can turn on some art here so you can kind of see one interpretation of what these bears are like. Now, these bears are probably not like bears that you have seen, because every bear that I've seen has had a short little stubby tail and not these long tails. They actually have these long tails because of how they got into the sky. Both of these bears used to be humans. The big bear was a woman named Callisto, and the little bear was her son Arcus. And they ended up getting turned into bears, and Zeus wanted to keep them safe, and so he picked them up by their tails and flung them into the night sky so that they could stay safe up there. And while they got flung by their tails, that's what kind of stretched them out and created those long bear tails that we now see. Now, even though the Greeks saw a couple of bears here, this doesn't mean that's the only thing you can see. The Norse, out of what we call the Big and Little Dipper, actually saw two wagons. So where we have the Big Dipper, they have the big wagon or the man's wagon. That was usually related to either Thor or Odin. And then the Little Dipper, they saw as the little wagon or the woman's wagon, which was usually associated with Freya. So depending on which culture, there's actually lots of different constellations, lots of different patterns and stories that you can tell, even with the same sets of stars. Another great example of that, if we kind of turn over to the northeast, you can see this big W in the sky. Now, this W to the Greeks was the Queen Cassiopeia. And this one does take a little bit of imagination to kind of see. The way we picture her as if is that like this is her head, and then we have her back, upper legs, lower legs, and then giant clown feet. That's kind of how we at the Planetarium picture her. I know this program draws her a little bit differently than we at the Planetarium see her. But again, even with those same constellations, there's many different ways that you can imagine these figures, because as you can see with Cassiopeia, they're not always super obvious. So this is another really good example of seeing lots of different things in the same constellation. One of my personal favorites, in Persia, they actually see this as the two humps on the back of a camel, which I love. And then going back to kind of some Norse constellations, this here represented Ratatosk, who is I always get confused if he is a squirrel or a rat. But he is climbing up and down Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life, represented here by the Milky Way. At the bottom is a snake, at the top is, I think it's an eagle. But these two hate each other, and so Ratatosk is constantly having to climb up and down the Tree of Life, Yggdrasil, to carry messages back and forth between the two. And so you can see him here scurrying kind of up and down the Milky Way, which is that Tree of Life, and I love that. Alright, so we're going to come back to Greek constellations, because in the fall, over here in the northeastern sky, we have an epic Greek tale that involves five constellations that are all over here in kind of the northeast. And we start with Cassiopeia. So we have our queen here. Now the queen is not alone. Her king is up in the sky with her. He is located just up and to the left a little bit. So it's this kind of square with the triangle on the top. Kind of looks like maybe a house. But this is supposed to be the throne of King Cepheus. And so this is like the top of the throne where his head would be. Let me go ahead and turn those lines on. This would represent like the armrests, and then his feet would be down here. And so you can see.
Hey, Jessica.
Yes.
We just got a comment, and I checked. It seems the volume is a bit lower on your mic.
On mine? Really?
Yes, because I heard myself talking, and my mic sounds fine. So I guess.
Okay.
Try turning up your volume a little bit.
Yeah, I'm checking those levels now. Okay. Is that any better? Let me know in the comments.
That
Can you hear me any better?
sounds a little bit better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it.
Cool. Well, thank you for letting me know that, because yeah, I don't know what happened. I have it at the same level that I've had it for all the shows, but it does look like it might be because I have a lot of background noise this time.
Yeah, that might be it.
Because I've got stuff running in the background. I can't move so the microphone is on my headphones, so I don't have a different mic that I'm using, so there's no moving it or adjusting it. Suddenly much better. Okay, we'll go with that. Okay, so back to our epic Greek tale here in the fall sky. You can see again that this program draws our King Cepheus in a slightly different position than we typically describe him and see him as, but again, that comes back to kind of some artistic license in representing the figures of the constellations. All right, so our king and queen, Queen Cassiopeia and King Cepheus, were the rulers of what's now known as Ethiopia, and they were not good people. They were suddenly lower again. Okay, I don't know what's going on. On mine, it's showing the same level that it was at when you said it before. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but I will be sure to look into that to see if I can figure out.
Yeah, I think it's because of the stuff in the background. Because I'm also hearing a little bit of feedback as well.
Okay.
So it's probably just that. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go with that, and I'll try and look into it more later. All right, so our Queen Cassiopeia, King Cepheus, they were rulers of what's now known as Ethiopia. They were not good people, did not have, were not kind to the people they ruled over, really only cared about themselves. They also had a daughter named Andromeda, and the easiest way to find her is to actually take the rightmost V of Cassiopeia and Cepheus's head and use that as an arrow. And that's going to point you to this little fuzzy blob in line with these stars. Now, this little fuzzy blob is actually a galaxy. This is the Andromeda Galaxy. Let me zoom us in here. So this galaxy is one of the only things that we can see outside of our Milky Way with your naked eye. You do not have to have a telescope to see this. Now, to your eye, it will be just a tiny little fuzzy blob. Through a telescope, you'll see a bit more detail, may even see this beautiful spiral structure, because the Andromeda Galaxy is a spiral galaxy, just like our own. And yeah, it's about 2.5 million light years away. And so that is something you can see. And it's named the Andromeda Galaxy because it is in the region of sky of the Andromeda constellation. So it actually kind of makes part of Andromeda's belt. Here we have her head. Her arms stretch out like this, and then her legs stretch down like this. And so we have Andromeda here, just like that. All right, so why is Andromeda's arms kind of outstretched? Well, this goes back to her mom and dad, Cassiopeia and Cepheus, not being very nice people. Cassiopeia one day declared that she was more beautiful than all of the gods and goddesses in the universe. And this made the gods extremely angry, because you just don't talk like that. So they came to pay them a visit and started out being honestly relatively nice for gods. And we're like, look, just say you were wrong. say you're not more beautiful than us, we'll let this go. But Cassiopeia and Cepheus doubled down and said to their faces, no, because I am more beautiful than you. Well, this really ticked off the gods. So they set a giant sea monster after their kingdom. And so as the sea monster is like walking through the sea, coming to the kingdom, Cepheus and Cassiopeia decide to take their dear daughter Andromeda and chain her up to a rock in the middle of the ocean, in the hopes that the monster would take her and leave their kingdom alone. I told you, they're not nice people. Now, thankfully for Andromeda, we still have 2 more players in our story. Our next one sits just below Cassiopeia, and it's this group of stars here. This is Perseus. And so we have kind of his head, and then his legs kind of come down this way, and his arm is outstretched because he is holding the head of Medusa. That is Perseus's claim to fame. He is the guy who killed Medusa. Now, Perseus isn't alone. He has his faithful steed, the lovable winged horse Pegasus, which is one of my favorite constellations. Excuse me. And it is these 4 stars. Yeah, it's a square. This is known as the Great Square of Pegasus.
I see it personally. I don't understand how people don't see it. I see it personally.
Well, you are in the arts and therefore have a very vivid imagination.
Very, very true.
No, and I mean, a lot of people, like you see here, they do add in other stars to make like a head and at least a couple of legs, but he's still, missing his back half. So it's still an interesting choice, we'll say. But Perseus is flying by on Pegasus when he hears these cries for help. He looks down, he sees poor Andromeda chained to the rock, sees the sea monster heading her way, and some very clever thinking pulls out Medusa's head. Now, if you don't know, Medusa has this power where if you look her in the eye, you turn to stone. So he carefully removed the head, being careful not to look at it himself, and pointed it towards the sea monster, which looked in her eye, turned to stone, and then sank down to the ocean below. That allowed Perseus to then fly down and unchain Andromeda. They both hopped onto Pegasus and flew off to live happily ever after. Now, that still did leave the king and queen without being punished because their daughter wasn't killed and their town or their kingdom wasn't destroyed. So as a last resort, the gods decide to chain both the king and queen up in the night sky so that they will be imprisoned there forever, and they positioned them so that they couldn't look at each other ever again. And that's why in our kind of rendition of like how to see the figures in the stars, we say that this is Cassiopeia's head and this is Cepheus's, so that Cassiopeia is always kind of looking down this way and Cepheus is always looking out at us, and so they're not able to look at each other. The downside to that is we do end up having Cassiopeia with these really big clown feet here, but not to worry. We had a fabulous, I believe she was a 3rd grader, in for a field trip a couple years ago, and she has decided that that makes complete sense to her because the goddesses just gave Cassiopeia these clown feet so that she couldn't be more beautiful than them. And I love it, and it is now an addition that I always add to the story, and I think also shows the fun that you can still have even with some of these constellations that seem pretty rigid and set. There's still a lot of fun to be had with them, like adding your own little quirky things to them like that. All right, so the last things that I want to point out, over in the kind of east-southeast, we have got Jupiter and Saturn still hanging out with us in the evening sky. A little bit later in the night, Mars also shows up. High above, we have the summer triangle, which is made up of Vega, Altair, and Deneb. Vega is a part of Lyra the Lyre, or Lyra the Harp. Altair is a part of Aquila the Eagle. And Deneb is a part of Cygnus the Swan. Now, we have talked about these constellations for a couple months now, so if you are interested in hearing their stories or learning more about them, you can always go check one of our previous videos. But to wrap us up, where is it? I might have to go a little bit later into the night. I'm also like completely turned around right now. Where's it at? Where is it at? Let me go a little bit later into the night. See if I can find it. Oh no, there it is. I see it now. Okay. Saturn's in it, actually. Over here in the kind of southern sky where Saturn is, you could make out this kind of triangle shape. This is Capricornus, who is half goat, half fish. Basically, he started out as a full goat. His name was Pan, and he was battling a Titan and started to try and run away. But as long as he ran, he couldn't escape the Titan. The Titan kept chasing after him. Eventually, he reached the edge of the land and jumped in the ocean to try and swim away, but the Titan kept following him. At this point, Zeus saw what was happening and decided to turn the back half of him into a fishtail so that he could finally swim fast enough to escape the Titan. And that is how we end up with a half goat, half fish in the night sky. And I think I will end it there. We'll kind of keep letting time go by. Like I said, we can see Mars coming up just around 11 o'clock. It's going to keep getting up a little bit earlier and earlier as we move through the month. If you're just dying to see some winter constellations, they are up in the early hours of the morning, or you can just wait a few months. And there we have our sun coming up in the east with Venus tagging along not too far ahead. And that brings us back to the day. And so yeah, those are some of the constellations that you can see out this month. And Brayden, you're like half missing. Oh, there you are. And some of the fun stories behind them.
We have one question.
Okay.
In what month will Mars come close to M35, the open cluster in the fleet of Gemini?
Let's see. I can see if I can figure it out.
While you're figuring that out, I'll go through some of these comments that we have here. One was, hello from Tennessee. Hello. I saw this last night. I had watched a strange moving object for almost an hour. That's very... What would you say if you watch... I guess if you're still in here, can you tell us like how fast you would say that object is moving? Maybe we can help identify what that was.
Moving for an hour? Yeah, I have no idea what that could be.
Cause like the rule of thumb that I've been kind of going off of for a bit is if it's like, okay, so if it's a light with a red blinking light, it's an airplane. If it's like something that you kind of see like slowly moving in the sky, I've just been assuming it's a satellite or something that's just overhead. And then yeah, if it's something really fast, then I assume it's like a shooting star or something like that. That's basically what I've been going off of.
Yeah.
And I see Cassiopeia as upside down, which is her undignified position. I prefer the clown feet. I think the clown feet is funnier.
I like the clown feet.
Okay. once I learned to look for it, I could see the edge of the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy is sharper on one side of the oval than the other, even naked eye. It takes a dark sky though, so
Oh, that's really cool.
I am seeing the dust lane, so to speak. So yeah.
Okay, so it's
and
looking
that's basically everything.
like October is when Mars is going to be close, and that's before it starts going retrograde. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing. But that's the beauty of this program. You can look for things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that should be all of the comments we went through. I didn't really. I wanted to let you go through the stories and just go through the comments at the end, since there weren't any
absolutely.
pertinent questions until that last one.
All right. Well, we'll see if we get. I want to see if we hear from that person, from Nancy, about what they saw, because I'm very curious. Because I can't think of anything immediately that would be up for an hour and moving. Because any plane or satellite would go faster than that.
Yeah. Another comment, I've seen a tumbling satellite that flashed but moved very, 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 capital last very slowly against the background sky. Which, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And, I mean, yeah, it'll go back, going back to Mars and M35. Yeah, it'll go back, but I didn't go that far ahead. I just looked for the most recent time, the closest time that's going to be the closest to it. All right, well, let me kind of go over what is coming up this week. So for our in-person shows, Friday we are doing Journey Through the Solar System, and Saturday we have Earth's Wild Ride and Stars of the Pharaohs. Both of those are new shows that we premiered this month. I think this weekend is our last weekend we're running them. Next week is October 1st.
Yeah.
So this is the last week that we will be showing these two. They will come back around. We will kind of rotate through our shows, but I'm not sure when they'll be back. So if you want to see those now, this would be the time to do it. Otherwise, next weekend, which is the beginning of October, somehow, we will start a new set of movies for Saturday. And then
very much recommend Stars of the Pharaohs. So if you're gonna come, please, that's the one I say you should come check out.
It's so good. But speaking of that, we might be showing that one as part of our Halloween event. So we have finally set the date for our annual Halloween event. It's going to be Saturday, October 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. We will be doing this back fully in person. For the past 2 years, we have done a drive-through event, but this one is going to be just like it was before, where we'll have all sorts of fun activities and demos set up for you to walk around. There will be candy, there will be planetarium shows, might be some telescope viewing. We got to see what the weather is like. It's just going to be a whole lot of fun. And for the planetarium shows, I'm thinking of bringing back Stars of the Pharaohs for that night, because I think it kind of goes along, right? Kind of, a little bit.
Yeah.
And also, it's just a really good show.
Yeah, it's really, 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 really fun. It's a good show.
Yeah, we're still planning all of the details as far as like exactly what activities and shows and things. From the people that I've heard back from, I think we are going to have some really, really fun activities.
Yes.
I don't want to say anything until I have like firm confirmations from these groups, but I am excited. Yeah, it's going to be great. So mark that down. Come see us. It is always an amazingly fun time that we have. So yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm not seeing any other comments or questions.
Neither am I.
So I think we will wrap it up there. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Hopefully we'll see you either at our next live stream or at one of our in-person shows. Have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. We'll see you next time. So bye everyone.